sent out to enrolled Australian voters. We are told by gay lobby groups, the mainstream media, celebrities, politicians, that marriage equality is a human right that belongs to everyone, and Australia is behind the times in not legalising it. In fact, we are ahead of the times in resisting the changes to an age-old institution that is not broken. As the proverb goes, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Australia is often compared with other decadent and morally bankrupt Western nations with criticism and ridicule for holding out against gay marriage. But when you consider only 23 out of the 209 countries in the world have legalised same-sex unions, we are in the majority. Militant gay activists tell supporters of traditional marriage, we have no right to tell others how to live their lives. But we know that the gay marriage is not solely about gay marriage, it represents much, much more. There are consequences to amending the Marriage Act. The gay marriage movement has moved from tolerance to totalitarianism. That's what it is over there. The bigots over there are the most blinded. They talk about us being bigots, but what we see all the time since the postal survey has started is just the intimidation and the harassment. That's totalitarianism. They call us fascists. Well, I reckon totalitarianism is way worse. We saw what happened in the Soviet Union.
Why are you wearing a mask? He's wearing a mask. No shit. He's wearing a mask.
Block his camera! Block the camera!
are not welcome here.
Racist, sexist, anti-queer.
Merchants are not welcome here.
Racist, sexist, anti-queer.
Merchants are not welcome here.
Not welcome anywhere. Take your shitty flag and fuck off.
These are the things which follow, and we haven't been told how we're going to deal with that here in Australia. There is no end for what the left wing want. The Australian Army, our own army, has just banned taking on men recruits for a year. For the next year, the Australian Army cannot take on a male recruit. This is the sort of thing that the left wing constantly bringing in. Marriage is an important social structure. It has a function, it has a structure, it's served us well. That's why we as an Australian society, the 98% of us who are not gay, are entitled to have a say about what marriage is. It is not just about two people, it's about the whole of our society structure. When you see what the social anthropologists Levi-Strauss and Radcliffe Brown say about the structures and functions of marriage, it is between a man and a woman, and it is a rite of passage, and it is to do with the whole of society, not just the two people involved. And it's about Australian society, and marriage needs more support, not less. We need to strengthen the structure of what marriage is. These people, they've derailed a plebiscite already. They say Parliament should act. Well, our Parliament did act under the Howard government. For the first time in our history, the Howard government actually felt it necessary to write into the Marriage Act what marriage is. So when these leftists complain that the Parliament should take action, well, the Parliament has taken action, and in Australia 22 times Australian society has said no to homosexual marriage, and we will continue to say no to homosexual marriage. From primary schools to universities, this radical queer ideology takes over once marriage is broken. Homosexual marriage is just the battering ram for breaking down our values as a conservative Western society. In Canada, after homosexual marriage was made lawful, law graduates now who qualify as lawyers are not being admitted because they went to a law school where they did not teach radical homosexual ideology. In London, a primary school is being deregistered because it will not teach the equivalent of safe school homosexual ideology, so they're going to deregister the school. These people care so much about us, they use violence to enforce their views. I wasn't going to come here. But what happened to the students at the Sydney University when 15 of them put up with 3 or 4 hours of violent abuse, and when they didn't react, their leader was wise enough to say, we're here to show it's okay to vote no, but we're not going to react to the violence of the left-wingers who are taunting us for hours, and so he kept them all calm. So what did they do? They attacked, they tore down their structures, they overturned their tables, they threw food at them, and they physically assaulted them. This is the loving, caring, left-wing homosexual group that want you to say yes. That's how they deal with things. This has now become as much about free speech as anything. I may not agree with what Nick Folks says. I may not agree with what other speakers say today, but I will bloody well stand up for their right to say it in public in Australia without being assaulted. There are good reasons for allowing homosexual marriage. I understand their arguments. They have good arguments, but of course they lose them when they attack our former Prime Minister. They lose them when they attack people who want to say no. And the better argument is no, because marriage is an important structure. There is no doubt that facts are not biased, facts are not offensive, and facts are not hurtful. And it is a fact that children brought up with their two natural parents, with a man and woman in the home, do better than in any other circumstances. That is what's best. That's why humans have thrived for thousands of years. In every analysis of every society anywhere in the world, we have always had a right of marriage where a man and a woman marry with the expectation that that will be the family unit that brings up children. These people want to tell me what words to use when I can say them. They say it's offensive. That poor girl in Canberra that got the sack for just going on Facebook and saying it's okay to vote no. Her boss said that's hate speech. Actually saying no and disagreeing is hate speech according to these lefties. I oppose that. I say the best argument is to stick with heterosexual marriage, a man and a woman. That's part of who we are as a society. These people will never give up, and we have to never stop resisting them. Thank you.
Thanks very much, John Bolton. The next speaker that we've got is a Sydney dentist by the name of Jim Sternhill. He's not just any sort of dentist, he's also a political activist, and his political journey began over a decade ago when it became amply clear that the catastrophic man-made global warming scare was a total scam. And since then, Jim has made it his life mission to probe and expose the deceptions and propaganda being rammed down the throats of innocent citizens. Jim believes the description of political correctness needs to be busted busted to turn back the pendulum in the pursuit of truth. Please welcome Jim Sternhill.
Who believes in freedom of speech? Hands up, who believes in freedom of speech? To the rabble behind us, do you believe in freedom of speech? Hands up, do you believe in freedom of speech? No, they don't. They don't believe in freedom of speech unless it's their freedom of speech that you're talking about. Of course, freedom of speech itself is freedom itself. If you don't have the right to speak the truth, everything that's going to be talked about is all going to be based on a pack of lies. And of course, freedom of speech has been compromised in the case at the moment. Someone puts their head up to say no, they want to have a point out there, and no, it gets hit on the head. We see Dr. Pansy lie, the call for her to be deregistered. The ability to earn an income is a person's most valuable asset. So, the rabble behind us, please explain why someone should be penalised of their most precious asset, the ability to earn an income, because of their views. And I'd expect this from the old Nazis. As it is, their tactics behind, they behave like brown shirts, don't they? The old Nazi brown shirts, it's exactly the same. Isolated incidents of thuggery, shouting down free speech, not acceptable. And of course the example of Prime Minister Abbott having his lip bloodied, well, that has totally unheard of, isn't it? And that girl being thrown out of a job because she dared to utter her voice. and that's discrimination. Had it been the other way around, what would have happened? The left would have been screaming their heads out. So to me, the main argument for no is that freedom of speech has been crushed. We simply haven't been given the information that we deserve. Yeah, so the rabble behind us, yeah, why can't we have the other argument? There's always two sides to an argument, and to have one side crushed is very totalitarian, isn't it? Once again, totally and utterly unacceptable. At least they've quietened down for a second. I think they've been busted that they don't actually believe in freedom of speech, except for themselves. For all of us here, essential, we've got to keep maintaining the rage, because we are the beacons of liberty here. We're the only ones who can really stand up for freedom of speech. We do live in the era of apathy, unfortunately, so we've got to try and get our fellow freedom fighters fighting for freedom. And once again, the big thing is, it's okay to say no. So on to our next speaker. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Jimmy. Our next speaker is Pastor Keith Piper. Keith Piper is a Baptist minister, and he's written many books on Islam, challenging the false doctrine of Islam, and he's also been responsible for bringing about a de-radicalisation program to remove Muslims from their ideology and convert to peaceful Christianity. Keith is a family man who believes that the family unit is a sacred institution. Please welcome Pastor Keith Piper.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you for being here today. I want to talk about the hidden agenda of same-sex marriage and the consequences of same-sex marriage, SSM, for society, for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender community, and for God. What does God have to do with this, people might ask? Well, let's start off with an important idea. When someone is selling a lie or selling an uncomfortable idea, the deceiving speaker has two reasons in mind. The first reason is the given reason, which sounds fair and good, such as same-sex marriage is loving and promotes marriage equality, and people think, oh, isn't that wonderful? That sounds beautiful. Oh, how nice. But then there is the real reason in the speaker's mind, which, if the real reason was announced, would immediately be rejected as dangerous, evil, and not in our interests. And the real reasons behind this same-sex marriage agenda is that same-sex marriage is a tool of the elites of this world to erode our freedoms of speech, freedoms of religion, freedoms of parenting, freedom to protest, freedom of adoption, until these elites control every area of our life. Amen? Same-sex marriage is a dirty trick to steal these freedoms from us. Do not be a same SSM sucker. Do not be an SSM sucker. There are some suckers in this world who swallow anything that comes their way. And the SSM crowd have swallowed a lie, a dangerous, evil lie, and they will live to regret it if it gets through. So we must ask a question. What are the short-term and long-term consequences of SSM? If you do not know the short-term and long-term consequences, then you must vote no. And do not throw away your freedoms to some corrupt government. You never buy a car unless you've test driven it first. This disaster of SSM has immense problems for every layer of society now and into the future. You cannot trust ungodly governments to always do the right thing for you. That's for sure. They will mostly do what they think will keep themselves in power, and they will be quite happy to vote yes if it keeps themselves in power. Isaiah 10:1, woe unto them that decree unrighteous decrees. That means there's a curse on governments who decree unrighteous decrees. Why will the Labor Party and the Liberal Party not first tell us how they intend to guarantee our freedoms of speech, our freedoms of religion, our freedoms of protest if SSM is legalised? Why won't they first tell us how they guarantee our freedoms? Why won't they? It's because they have no intention of guaranteeing our freedoms of speech, religion or protest. No intention. No intention. Shame. So what are the short-term and long-term consequences of legalising same-sex marriage? Number one, SSM is total uprooting of traditional father-mother parenting. It will legally erase biological parenting. Parental rights will be taken by big government. Why should homosexual rights supersede children's rights to a mum and a dad? Okay? Kids matter more than the homosexual right to marriage. Children of SSM are discriminated against. Children of SSM are disadvantaged by missing a biological parent. You ask some of them. You ask them, sister. Okay? You ask them. How many do you know like that? None. You ask them. Number two, consequence. Number one, you will lose your freedom to protest this and many other government-mandated issues. It will be called discrimination to say that marriage is between a man and a woman. It will be called discrimination to say that every child should be raised by his biological father and mother. New hate speech laws and anti-discrimination laws will be introduced where you can be prosecuted for voicing a different opinion. Your legal fees and penalties will be over $100,000 just to defend yourself against such accusations of discrimination. That is a shame and a disgrace. You will also risk losing your professional license if you express a different opinion, such as the same-sex marriage attempt to deregister a Chinese doctor for opposing SSM. You risk losing your job, especially if you're a government employee. You risk losing your business, especially if you're a baker. You risk losing your children if you criticise government legalised SSM. Canadian schools put homosexual same-sex marriage into all subjects and into all grades of school. That is not education, that is brainwashing with an evil agenda. Christians have to tolerate all the garbage that's thrown at us, but SSM won't tolerate us. Third consequence, same-sex marriage has been planned by the bullying unsafe schools advocates. Once same-sex marriage is legalised, it will be a guaranteed green light for them to brainwash, abuse and confuse your children with 200 plus gender identities, something which should never be allowed in the schools to attack and hurt and abuse children. Parents can expect state interference when it comes to teaching moral values to their children. Government will have access into your home to judge your suitability as a parent. If the government does not like what you are teaching your children, they will attempt to remove your children. If same-sex marriage laws are introduced, then gender-neutral language will be legalised and mandated. It will be discrimination for you to assume someone is male or female, regardless of their genitalia. Gender-neutral pronouns such as Z must be uniformly applied or you get someone's anger. Politicians will attempt to out-radical one another to become the next trans rights champion. Most faith charities will either close down or become politically correct to avoid fines and loss of charitable status. Vote yes if you want more of your freedoms taken away by big government and if you want to be controlled by others. Who in their right mind would want more of their freedoms taken away by big government? Can you trust big government to do the right thing by you? Wake up to yourself. You cannot trust big government. They've got crooks. They're out to further their own agenda. Wake up, young person. Get a bit of experience and learn from the mistakes of previous generations, okay? I'm an old man. I've seen what's happening. I know what I'm talking about. Vote no if you want to preserve your freedoms and your way of life. Same-sex marriage consequences for society are: number one, religious freedoms will be lost. Churches' tax-free status will be attacked. Number two, individual freedom of expression will be lost. And thirdly, same-sex marriage will be compulsorily taught to your children, grandchildren in state schools, and you will not be able to stop it. After legalising same-sex marriage in the UK, number one, practising Christians, Jews, Muslims and Sikhs can no longer adopt children. Whoa, never thought of that happening, did they? Number two, the National Trust joined the bullying LGBT campaign by compelling 62,000 volunteers to wear the SSM rainbow badge. Number three, Richard Page was fired for saying that children might enjoy better outcomes if they were adopted by heterosexual couples. Lost his job just for one sentence. In the UK, same-sex marriage was promoted as tolerance and equality, but same-sex marriage produced the most intolerant, most unequal outcomes of any political issue. Same-sex marriage brings conflict. It brings conflict between laws of the state and the laws of all religions. 100%. Conflict between laws of state and laws of all religions. Same-sex marriage purpose is to introduce the bullying, sodomite, safe schools agenda into all schools at all grades. That's their agenda. It is designed to stop the Christian opposition to the global elite's one world control agenda. Same-sex marriage is intended to deauthorise the Judeo-Christian influence in our society. Vote no to SSM. Same-sex marriage attacks God. It attacks children. It attacks Christians. It attacks our freedoms. It attacks our peace. It attacks our businesses. It attacks our schools. It attacks our reality perception. It causes fear. It causes hate. It causes division, as we see today. Division when there need not to be division. Why can't we be a united society and get along without instigating a conflict and division? Nobody is born gay, just as nobody is born a bank robber, a drug dealer or a terrorist. Resist the temptation for homosexuality. They have never found a gay gene. Never found a gay gene. Never. Now, God says that legalised same-sex marriage is an abomination that defiles, destroys and vomits out a population. It is very bad for individuals to commit homosexuality and abortion, But when governments legalise these sins, big trouble is coming. In Leviticus 18, God warned Israel not to follow the ordinances of the Canaanites who lived in the land. After the doings of the land of Canaan, where I bring you, shall ye not do, neither shall ye walk in their ordinances. Ordinance means an enactment, a statute, a law. The judgment comes because iniquity is an ordinance of the society and not because individuals commit iniquity. When a society makes iniquity in same-sex marriage an ordinance, this is extremely serious with God. In Leviticus 18, the Bible defines iniquity as adultery, child sacrifice, homosexuality, bestiality. God strongly condemns this as an abomination. Now, God says, defile ye not yourselves in any of these, for in all these the nations are defiled, which I cast out before you. The land is defiled, therefore I do visit the iniquity thereof upon it, and the land itself vomits out her inhabitants. What does that mean for the land to vomit out the inhabitants? Never seen that happen before, have you? You study history. It's in history, it's happened before. We have a lot to thank God for our freedoms and our peace in Australia for 230 odd years. Don't mess it up by upsetting God or offending God. For all these abominations have the men of the land done, which were before you, the land is defiled. God will judge nations who legalise same-sex marriage. I'll give you 5 examples. Number 1, the pre-flood world was judged. Every imagination in the heart of man was evil continually. Number 2, Sodom and Gomorrah are set forth for an example, suffering the vengeance of eternal fire. Jude 7. Pompeii, you ever heard of Pompeii? Pompeii, the homosexual and prostitution capital of the Roman Empire, was destroyed by Mount Vesuvius erupting on 24th of August 79 AD, sending 170 km per hour, 800 degrees centigrade molten lava, killing 25,000 people in 24 hours. Pompeii had at least 41 brothels. Pornography was on every street and in most buildings. The eruption occurred just after they celebrated the fire god festival to Vulcanalia. The temperature was at least 250 degrees centigrade for 16-kilometre radius around Mount Vesuvius. They worshipped the phallic god as well. Number 4, New Orleans in the United States was destroyed by Hurricane Katrina on Saturday 30th of August 2005, the very day of the 33rd homosexual gay Mardi Gras. The very day? What's the probability of that happening? Goodness gracious, that's pushing the odds a bit, isn't it? The timing was shocking. I think the homosexual Mardi Gras had to be cancelled that day. And also there's Port Royal in Jamaica, was destroyed by an earthquake, 7th of June 1692. Once known as the wickedest city on the earth, for its concentration of pirates, prostitutes and rum. In minutes, a massive earthquake sent 33 acres of the city, buildings, streets, houses, contents, occupants into Kingston Harbour. You can be 100% sure that God sees legalising same-sex marriage as an abomination that he will judge Australia for. My dear friends, some very bad things will happen to Australia if the government crosses the red line by legalising same-sex marriage. Australia will vomit out her inhabitants for legalising same-sex marriage. How can this be? Well, atheist same-sex marriage advocates should study the Bible prophecies being fulfilled today and the events following them. Daniel foretold the exact year, month, day and hour that Jesus entered Jerusalem as 3 p.m. 29th of March 33 AD. Daniel foretold there will be a time of trouble such as never once since there was a nation, Daniel 12:1. Jesus foretold the destruction of Jerusalem, the temple, the escape, the captivity, and Israel losing control of Jerusalem until the end of the age in Matthew 24:2 and Luke 22:20. 6 correct prophecies. Jesus foretold a great tribulation such as not since the beginning of the world, nor ever shall be. Some other prophecies. Some of you may have a little interest in Bible prophecy. I'll give you a quick rundown. Number one, Israel has returned to a land from the sword after just on 2,000 years. From the sword is a prophecy of the Holocaust in Germany, World War II. Number two, Israel is military superior to Egypt. The land of Judah shall be a terror to Egypt. Number three, Israel is being judged by many nations. Every tongue that shall arise against thee in judgment thou shalt condemn. Number four, nations have parted my land, Joel 3:2, into Gaza and the West Bank to Muslims. Number five, get this one, folks. The Bible prophesies that Russia, Iran and Turkey will attack Israel in the latter years from a position known as the Mountains of Israel. That is southern Syria, where the Russian, Iranian and Turkish military is right today. Right now, as we talk. The Russian, Iranian, Turkish military is where it was prophesied 2,500 years ago. After this failed invasion, it says fire comes on those who dwell carelessly in the isles. Who could that be talking about, folks? Those who dwell carelessly in the isles. That sounds like New Zealand, England, Ireland, Australia. 4 main nations, island nations, who are endorsing same-sex marriage. This leads, what could this fire be? I wonder what this fire could be that comes on those who dwell carelessly in the isles. Maybe we should ask Kim Jong-un if he has any idea what this is talking about. This fire leads to 25% of the world population being killed in Revelation 6. What fire might do this, I wonder? After this disaster, a 200 million man army comes from the east, killing another 33% of the world in Revelation 9. Which nation could assemble 200 million man army? I wonder. If you've got any ideas, please tell me later on. Now, another surprising prophecy is that Antichrist armies only take half of Jerusalem, Zechariah 14:2. Why do they only take half of Jerusalem? It's to implement the two-state solution, which has East Jerusalem as the capital of a Palestinian state and West Jerusalem as the capital of a Jewish state. Antichrist sounds like a homosexual. Neither shall he regard the desire of women. Jerusalem's lesbian gay community, 25,000 gay march, which spiritually is called Sodom. And how does a person become a same-sex marriage advocate? Well, first of all, he believes in evolution, then he rejects God, the Bible, creation and accountability to God. If he thinks there's no God that he's accountable to, then he loses his moral compass and anything becomes okay. Now, if you think evolution created life, ask any university professor to synthesize and manufacture in a laboratory DNA, RNA or other complex molecules found in nature. He cannot. No scientist can produce these by design in a lab, so how can they evolve by accident in the real world? They never will. Cut open an apple, it goes brown. Why? Because oxygen breaks down the molecules. So oxygen would stop evolution getting past the amino acid stage so that no DNA and no life would ever form. How does evolution create self-consciousness in life? No one knows. It never did. If the Earth was 5 billion years old, you'd have 1 million times more salt in the seas, 1 million times more helium in the air, 1 million times more meteorite dust on the Earth. 200 plus flood legends disprove evolution and prove the Bible. Your computer will never work without software, nor will life evolve without God programming in the software. If you believe in evolution, you've been miseducated by teachers ignorant of so much evidence for creation. If you believe in same-sex marriage, you've been miseducated by ignorant teachers lying to you. Wake up and throw same-sex marriage idea in the rubbish tin before the same-sex marriage crowd throws your freedoms in the rubbish tin. Do not do the same-sex marriage experiment. The results will be so bad that you will wish you've never voted yes. The government is asking us to buy same-sex marriage without first testing it. Lastly, we see, do not accuse us of being homophobic. Same-sex marriage is against the laws of God and the universe. Legalised same-sex marriage will cancel God's protection of our nation and bring unimagined disasters that the biggest atheists will ask, why did God let these things happen? Learn from the Bible, learn from history that disasters follow legalised same-sex marriage. Some people know so much about lesbian, gay, binary, transgender sex, but know nothing about Bible prophecies, God, righteousness or salvation. When thy judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the earth will learn righteousness. The proof of the Bible is based on fulfilled prophecies. Teach children righteousness, not how to be a queer. Don't let same-sex marriage hijack the school system to teach same-sex marriage, LGBT sex, Islam, evolution, man-made climate change and atheism. Same-sex marriage is a mad and dangerous lie. If politicians fall for same-sex marriage madness, they will fall for other mad, bad ideas. Government has no right to change the divine foundational institute of marriage. Vote no. Government should get back to the business of governing by reducing their government debt, reducing the taxes, helping businesses, stopping the same-sex marriage lies. Government, get out of our private life. It's none of your business to change God's definition of marriage. Get back to the business of governing a country normally, and don't mess with marriage or God will mess with your government institution and you will wonder why so many bad things come. My friends, this is a deadly serious matter that if Australia votes yes, you can expect disasters beyond your wildest imagination. Don't do the crazy, brain-dead experiment of same-sex marriage. Vote no, 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 no to SSM. Throw SSM in the garbage tin of history where it belongs. If you don't, you will be on the wrong side of history and you'll live to regret it. Thank you. God bless you.
Thanks very much, Pastor Keith Piper. Our next speaker is a lady from Canberra, Kat Clayton. And Kat Clayton has been an anti-safe schools activist who sees the danger of same-sex education of children in their sexual health and education. Kat has come under constant threat for her work from militant safe school supporters and gay rights activists, but she refuses to be silenced. More recently, Kat was part of a group that organised the Vote No skywriting campaign. Kat Clayton, where are you?
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Kat Clayton, and yes, I'm part of the Vote No skywriting campaign on GoFundMe. Just so you know, despite the harassment of the left of LES pilots who actually do that sort of work, we do have something, so keep your eyes in the skies. It will be happening any day in the next few, I hope, if everything goes to plan. Now, my other thing that I'm actually here for, and I forgot my speech, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure other people have covered everything fairly well. You can see everything I have to say online. I am all over the place, as the left have discovered. Even as I left home today, I had a message in my messenger telling me that I needed to go kill myself. Wonderful. Yes, isn't it great? Because if I don't, I could end up dead in a bin. Isn't that fantastic? In the last week, I would have had 20 or 30 of those. Then there's the schoolyard bullying type ones, and then there's the rest of it. So my little group would just like to put a message out to everyone. Please speak to your neighbours, speak to your friends. If you're not willing to stand out like you guys are, thank you so much for being here, then at least do it in private, in the office, have a barbecue in the backyard, have a chat, encourage people to say no. It is really hard. I've spoken to the ladies from the Coalition for Marriage, and they've all undergone an awful lot of harassment as well, but they're all still there, they're all still standing, and they're all still speaking. At the end of the day, our discrimination laws haven't been properly tested. Same-sex marriage is really a legal tsunami in that, and we really need to stand up and speak now, or we're not going to have the opportunity. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Kat. Absolutely, it's going to be a tsunami of litigation that follows. People who appreciate the freedom of speech that we have today, and we don't have much freedom of speech, we don't have constitutional freedom of speech, they're going to be under attack. They're going to be before the Human Rights Tribunal, the Federal Court, and their pants are going to be pulled down and they're going to be pulverised, and that's not a very nice scenario. But our next speaker is Toby Cook. Toby Cook's a young fella. He's been involved with Party for Freedom for the last couple of years. It's good to see young people involved, because most people that come through the education system today are completely indoctrinated with the brainwashing, the cultural Marxism. They don't know who they are, they don't know where they are, they know nothing about their culture or their history or their nation, and it's a real shame. But hopefully, glad that Toby was able to sort of navigate through all that bullshit, and he's here today and he's going to give his unique perspective. Thank you. Welcome, Toby.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! 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 Aussie, Aussie, Aussie! Now, my speech is actually on my phone because my printer ran out of ink, don't judge me. So I'm just going to pull it out, so just bear with me a bit. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know me, my name's Toby Cook. I'm the Youth Liaison Officer of Party for Freedom. We've gathered here today to come together and say an emphatic no to pushing of a sick and vile homosexual agenda in our schools, in our universities. Kids will come home from school today learning that there are 76 different genders, and that, Adam and Steve can get married and reproduce. I don't even know what they're teaching. They're teaching now, I saw an article that they were pushing in classrooms, that a man transitioned to a woman and then had a baby. And it was just like, anyone who advocates for same-sex marriage, anyone who advocates for transgender isn't a thing, by the way. No amount of surgical mutilation from some dodgy surgeon in the Philippines can make you a woman. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. You can wear all the shitty wigs you want. You can wear all the weird dresses from St. Vinny's to Paul you want. But at the end of the day, you're not a woman. You're just a very confused young man. And by the way, I think, anyway, going to the Philippines for surgery is a terrible idea. I'm pretty sure that's how you end up on an episode of Banged Up Abroad, but, anyway, I just think, it's gone too far, and what we're doing today is more important than just us, more important than just you and me. We're standing up for our children and their children. Do you want your children being taught in the classroom that you can grow into any gender you want? You don't have to be a man or a woman. You can mutilate your genitals, and that's A-OK, that's healthy. Do you want that? No! We will vote no, we will stand up and say no, and they will never pass same-sex marriage in this country. Never! Never! No! Even though there's only a few of us here today, the silent majority will stand up, and those lefties and all those people who are waving rainbow flags and farting out condoms are going to see how wrong they were. Shame on the lefties, shame on the multi-sexuals wanting to corrupt our children, shame on them. Shame! Shame on them. How can they honestly sit by and in good conscience say, yeah, today I taught a kid that it was okay for a man to get poo on his dick, and say, yeah, and feel good about themselves? How can anyone in good conscience say that? It's sick, it's sick, it's the corruption of children, and we will not stand by and let it happen. Together we are strong, and together we will beat this and any other threat to Australia. Not many of us are willing to do what we're doing. You come out like you saw with that young 18-year-old. You come out and I believe she had a Facebook filter. It's okay to vote no. And she got sacked. You can't even voice any difference of opinion whatsoever without getting sacked and facing consequences. That is wrong. But together we can beat that. They can't sack us all. You know what? There's nothing more they want than to just push their agenda and crush free speech, than to sexualise our children. But it's people like us, people like you, everyday people who are going to stand up, vote with their feet, vote no. We're not going to let that happen. We've had it with these multi-sexuals pushing their sick and warped agenda. And today we're standing up. And not just today, every day we're standing up. And there's nothing they can do about it, no matter how badly they want to. Oh, there's nothing they can do. Our very existence is enough to trigger them, and I love it. Thanks for listening.
Thanks very much, Toby. Yeah, it's been a common theme today that our freedom of speech is under attack, and that's really the main message that a lot of Australians feel. I think that if they thought it was just about same-sex marriage, legalising of civil unions. You know, what's wrong with civil unions? Why doesn't the gay community, why aren't they happy with civil unions? They want more because they know that the agenda they're pushing and the restrictions they're going to be on people like us who believe in the institution of marriage and the preservation of it and protection of our children. And a lot of the speakers today have covered the debate very well, and I've got a lot to say. I've been down with the flu all week, so I'm feeling not that great today, but it's still good to be here, and it's always good to counter-protest the garbage up there, the intellectual garbage, because if the Islamics take over, they're the first ones that are going to go, and they're an evolutionary cul-de-sac anyway, because they don't really breed. That's a good thing, you know. But we know the federal law already exists, and people that are in same-sex de facto relationships have the same equality as people in heterosexual relationships, and gay couples are entitled to the same benefits and legal rights. And so why all the noise? Why all the noise? It is pretty clear same-sex marriage campaigners are hiding the truth about the negative consequences of legalising gay marriage. I know it's very controversial talking about some of the peer-reviewed material from overseas, but there's been a lot of research into same-sex marriages in America, and we've got to be very careful in Australia talking about it, because many Australians find themselves up before the Human Rights Tribunal, and it's a really an unfair level. There's no level playing field. And there's been a study, one of the studies that I'm citing is in America by a guy by the name of Mark Regnerus, from Texas University in 2012, and he's a sociology professor, and he said that the social experiment of homosexual marriage has caused serious harm to children. And he said that his study found that children raised by homosexual parents are more likely to raise homosexual And it's our right too, but no, this is a very slippery slope, and all of a sudden we're going to lose our rights, and our children are going to be affected by it in a very negative way. And we've seen with Tony Abbott being headbutted, as one of the speakers said, you know, this is just ridiculous behaviour. And the guy said, he identifies an anarchist and said, look, I'm not here to have a go at Tony Abbott because he supports same-sex marriage, but had a badge on himself saying yes to the Yes campaign. So he does support bum sex. So I don't know what, you know, these people, they should have debating skills instead of just using violence all the time. And Tony Abbott said a very important thing. He said he was sorry to say that the Lovers Love campaigns were the ones spreading the hate. It's funny that our political opponents up here believe it's boring. Well, you know, on average, the unfortunate reality is that gay people, in every other aspect of the way that we see them in Australia, are equal to us, and we're not going after them because of their lifestyle, but we need to preserve the religious institution of marriage. And we've seen with the campaign so far, the cafes, restaurants, and all these different businesses that have been saying on social media and other places, saying that if you do not support gay marriage or the legalisation of gay marriage, don't come to our business, don't have a deconstructed chai latte at our place. That's intimidation, you know. Where's the tolerance? Where's the love from these people? We know that in America, a few years ago, an Oregon baker, a Christian couple, the Kleins, were fined $135,000 US for merely saying that they didn't want to design a wedding cake for two lesbians. And that's what the future holds out for people who have traditional values, whether they're Christian or otherwise. And it will, the Supreme Court just imagine if the legal and social burden of the state taxpayers and Islamic community was allowed in Australia. And people in the team, our vote is very important for the postal vote, but also when we go to election time. Do research and find out what proper stands on and they make it so close. If it wasn't for the nationals, if it wasn't for
Hey!
Get the hell out of Darlinghurst. What are you doing here? Go back to the RSL club or wherever you came from.
Fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! No fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! No fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! No fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! Just fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! Just fascists on our streets! No justice, no peace! There's fascists on our streets! There's fascists on our streets!
Time to wrap it up.
Burn yourself! You and your little feelers that you're very there, all you do is hang yourselves up. You're nothing but ignorant fucking bigots. All of you. Every single last one of you. Have your last laugh. Have your last laugh. Stop out in the shoe. Look at what you're being taught, don't you? Go back to Adelaide, John Bolton. You're not wanted here. And take that other freak in the suit too. Send him back to where we go. Because none of you are welcome here, and you never will be.
I've got a assault charge on him. I've got the number in my pocket of you.
You have a great budget, Sam.
Great fashion. You preach about saving the children from fucking us. When there is gay children that are getting bullied and vilified in schools because of people like you. Gay kids need support from their fucking own nation that fucking supports their rights. Otherwise they will feel like they are not supported. It's as simple as that.
What did he do with that? The black shirt. Have you not seen it before? 2 weeks ago, over 30,000 marriage equality supporters gathered in the streets of Sydney. And look at fucking 12 of you. There's less than 30, less than 1,000 of that gathering. Who do you think you are? You're pathetic.
Well, that was a fail.
No. You're embarrassed.
Alright, so there's a beautiful protest happening somewhere else. Maybe we should all go there and have a gay picnic. Woo! Oh, thank God that sign's gone. What a waste of ink. That's where it should be, on the fucking floor.
We should be having some gay sex somewhere.
Gay sex.
That's the word idea.
We're saving that for later. Standing around being a bigot cunt. Why would we have sex in public? Just because we're gay doesn't mean we're exhibitionists. Straight people can be exhibitionists too.
I don't know about you.
I can see that. Do you want some? Do you want some? Nah, sorry mate.
Come on.
You're a bit over my age.
You can use some dick in your life.
Why are you worried about us in the bedroom anyway? We're not worried about you guys. That's freaking weird.
Way to be crazy.
Check your divorce rate, mate.
You spend a lot of time thinking about gay people having sex and not enough time probably.
Yeah, it's almost like some sort of insecurity or something. Hey, it's a key. You know what this sign means, mate? You know what this sign means?
Race traitor! Refugees, what the fuck's wrong with you?
You're scum, mate. You're scum.
What's it?
Shit. Tommy's a Nazi!
Tommy's a Nazi!
What's your shirt say?
What's your shirt say?
Hey, Mr.
That privilege
Fernando!
that you're now going against kids fleeing war.
Mr. Fernando!
What's your topic?
I'm going to go until they start worrying about
Fucking Indian!
Get lost! That's disgusting. Media, I hope you all get a picture of that guy's shirt that says rape refugees and stay out. You better get a picture of that fucking shirt. That's disgusting. That's beyond all today. That's fucking disgusting. That's gross.
All hard and tougher.
That's beyond all. You're wearing a fucking pro-rape shirt. What the fuck?
This is when Facebook ends and real world begins. Go on, get out of Dodge. The keyboard warriors, fuck off. You fascists about to lose. You might win. Oh, you fascists about to lose. Oh, you fascists about to lose. Oh, you fascists about to lose. You're about to lose. You fascists about to lose.
Oh, someone needs to burn that shirt.
Fascists, go on home. Oh, you 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 fascists bound to lose. 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 Oh, you fascists, go on home. 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 All you fascists off our streets. 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 All you fascists bound to lose. All you fascists bound to lose. Bound to lose, all you fascists. Bound to lose, all you fascists. Stand like the rock star. All you fascists done and gone. All you fascists done and gone. All you fascists done and gone. All you fascists done and gone.
We had a good supply of bloody headache pills after all them whistles.
All you fascists, we're here and gone. All you fascists, we're